This week on the Orange Box podcast, we talk about the Nintendo Indie and Partner Directs, Crash Bandicoot 5 being cancelled in favor of live service games, PlayStation 5 getting a price increase, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to that beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 47. I am your host, the man who came back for more spear stabbings and hammer smashings, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man who intends to literally date everything, Justin, better known as I Am Zerica. How you doing today? How's your week been?
Well, first off, I have to say it's great the fact that my internet's finally back up again. They finally came out and repaired the cable, so I am back on location, as it were. No more commuting just to record the podcast, so that's great. Also being able to just do the basic things in life that require the internet, so that's good. So one of the things also that, wait, actually, let me make sure I got that right. So with that, one of the things I also sort of went back to doing, which I wanted to do before, but I had to wait because I needed to use the internet, was try to fix or try to work out some of my computer issues that I had before, see like if I could figure out what was going on with that. So I'm still confused as to what the problem could be. I tried downloading Windows onto a completely fresh drive, just seeing how that works. Things seem to go well on that end. Then I tried using another OS. Several of them would not be recognized at all when I tried to install them. But then I tried another OS, and that seemed to work. So I've been experimenting with that. It seems to be working well so far. I think one big test I'll do is actually, try to do a little bit of stress work and actually play some games and see if that has any sort of influence at all. But so far, just like doing general stuff, it's responsive. It's not doing any freezing or crashing or anything like that. So I don't know if I might adopt like that as my new operating system or not. I'll see. But again, I still have to figure out what the problem actually is in general. So that's that. Oh, one thing actually I forgot to mention last week, and I'll actually just now. So, like a few weeks back, I mentioned the trading card game Paragon that was on Kickstarter. So, as a small update to that, I got several emails about the project saying that it had been canceled because it was going to be restructuring over again. The team wanted to revamp what they had been doing with not only with the artwork but also with the structure and like increase the number of cards in a set. So because of that, they are going to relaunch the campaign again on October the 1st. So I was a bit scared when I saw that was canceled, but the fact that they just want to make some improvements to it, I thought that was pretty good. So I am looking forward to rebacking it on October 1st. But yeah, that's pretty much how my week's been going.
Cool. Well, I'm definitely glad that you have access to your internet again and that you don't have to keep going back and forth just for that. So that's really good. But yeah, hopefully you can figure out your computer issues across the board and move forward with that. In terms of my week, let's see here. So we last talked on Wednesday, and so my sister was here through Friday, and then she stayed with my other sister, or with our sister, on Friday night because she was flying out early Saturday morning. My older sister was going to be driving her to the airport, so there was that. But I did take Friday off, so that was kind of nice. Nice. Actually got a chance to talk a bit more with my sister and everything. My younger sister, I should clarify. Actually get, some visiting time one-on-one, more or less. So it was good to talk about some stuff. Um, and then Saturday ended up being a lot busier than I was expecting it to be. Mostly just because I had to do. Well, we had like a meeting at church just related to what we're doing with the music going forward. Um, Basically, just trying to have more of a consistent rotation between the few of us who could lead, so that our main guy can actually have weeks off consistently instead of it being just kind of all over the place. And then I had to do like multiple different cooking things. Oh, I did smoke a brisket last week. I can't remember if I mentioned that
Ooh.
or not because I don't remember which day I did
don't
that.
think you mentioned that.
I think I probably smoked it on Thursday. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Or well, I think I started it Wednesday evening and smoked it through to Thursday so that we could have it for dinner on Thursday. So I did that, but yeah, just did various cooking things. Recorded some part of the Japanese curry breakfast burrito recipe. I did the Japanese curry portion because the rest of it I could technically do anytime. It's just that while I normally just use leftover curry in order to make it, I figured, I probably should talk about how you actually make the curry so that, if anybody wants to make this, they see, even though it's basically just following the directions on the back of the box. But it's still, because this is a key, very important portion of this recipe. I'm not just going to say, just follow the directions on the box and you're good to go. Because then that's just kind of like, well, then what's the point of watching the video? Other than the fact that you see a different idea of what to do for breakfast burrito. But anyway, so I will say I haven't done anything in terms of editing videos, and I didn't record anything more for the game channel. To be honest, I've just been burnt out. Even with a couple weeks off, I've been struggling a bit, and I'm just kind of trying to reevaluate what exactly I'm doing going forward, because yes, there's been growth on the channels. I mean, both of them are getting close to 300 subscribers apiece, or well, the game channel is, and then the other one I think is around 220, something like that. Which, I mean, is like, it's good, it's growth, and every little bit helps, but it's just the amount of time it takes to do that stuff, and all that. I've just, like, it's daunting sometimes trying to get all that done, and so right now I'm just kind of trying to reevaluate how exactly I want to do things going forward, because it needs to be in a pace that I can maintain. And honestly, the biggest problem I have is the recording of the game footage. That's the biggest problem above all else. And like, I have multiple games left I still want to record. Stuff that I already own on both platforms, stuff recently obtained that I can do on both platforms, but there's just a lot, And so I'm trying to figure out the best way to handle all this, because I want to build this up because I'm hoping that eventually it can turn into a source of income. But I also recognize that right now it's like the progress is really slow. And I'm not sure if I need to do something differently, like not necessarily stop doing what I'm doing, but do some other stuff to supplement, like maybe do some commentary videos or something. Like, I honestly, I just don't know what to do. And additionally with that, I'm just thinking about like our podcast, because I don't think we really have any growth. I mean, YouTube, of course we don't, but people don't necessarily listen on YouTube in general. Usually people are going to be doing it through podcast services. But I just have no way to know if anyone is subscribed at all, if anyone's actually really listening, apart from looking at analytics a little bit. And even then, I have no idea how much they're listening. And yes, ultimately, it's not that important in terms of I'm not gonna stop doing it regardless of whether people are listening or not, because I do this mostly because it's a good outlet, and it's a chance to talk to you every week, which is good. We get to talk about video games and what's going on in video game news and everything, and it's just kind of a nice break from all the other stuff. So, like, I'm gonna do it regardless, but I still would like to see some growth, potentially, if at all possible. Especially with the work that gets put into it every week. So, but anyway, so I'm just kind of all over the place right now. I'm not sure when I'm gonna get to doing some recording. I'm considering, well, I'm probably going to take at least another week off in terms of actually doing video editing. I mean, like, I just haven't done anything with it this week, and I just don't know how easily I'm going to have the time to do the recording for Persona 4 Golden, because each segment is going to be over an hour of gameplay and times 3, and then, of course, all the editing that goes along with that. It's like, it's a big project, and I mean, I'm kind of considering maybe just like pushing that one back a little bit and then working on it little by little, like record one section 1 week and then record the next section another week and stuff, and then I can slowly work on it and then supplement before those with other games like Okami HD, for example. But I honestly just don't know right now. So that being said, I don't really think there's much of anything else. I'm just kind of all over the place at the moment in general. But that's why we're here to talk about video games. So, what have you been playing this past week?
Well, I finally got that last achievement in Halls of Torment.
Very nice.
It took much longer than I wanted to, and I went through 3 different guides in the Steam forums just to figure out the best build on how to get it.
Yeah.
And even when I got to the 3rd guide, it still took me several attempts to get it right, but I am glad that it's over with, and I am so satisfied that I can put this game behind me, at least until the full release comes out and more achievements are likely added, and I have to go back and get those. So until then, though, I'm content with just saying I'm done now. I don't have to touch this anymore. And yeah, so it's that. That's it for that. Played some Stardew Valley with my friends. We went back on a quest that we had been doing, which was to get through 100 floors of a dangerous version of a cavern. So what we had planned on doing was just to build enough stairs so that way, instead of having to try to search throughout an entire floor and try to find a stairway, just make a bunch of stairs and just go straight down to floor 100. Mm-hmm. We didn't have enough stairs to go all the way, so we did have to like actually look for some staircases in the meantime, but we crafted probably about 83 staircases, so that was only about 17 we actually had to go down. But we got through that quest, and we were so relieved to finally get through it, because that hard mode is just brutal until we actually get to upgrade our weapons to the highest quality possible, which is going to take a while because we actually need to grind from the hard enemies to craft it. But yeah, we were happy with that. But mainly, though, what I've been playing has been more Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories, and I think I'm definitely getting the hang of the gameplay. Like I said before, jumping into it from Kingdom Hearts 1 definitely was a bit disorienting, but after playing through the Game Boy Advance version and understanding that, and also remembering my strategies as far as like how I build my decks, that definitely helped a whole lot. So it's the fact that I'm pretty much going floor by floor now with little to no problems. The bosses, or at least a couple of them, were a little bit intimidating just because of the fact that when they build their slights, I have to constantly shift through my deck just so I can find my 1-0 card so I can cancel it out. But other than that, though, it's not bad. And I'm currently on floor 6, I believe. So I think I'm roughly about halfway through Sora's story. So that's not bad. And yeah, definitely having a good time. Well, as good time as you can have if you're playing Chain of Memories.
All right. Well, that's good. Yeah, I definitely would love to play Chain of Memories again someday. Because obviously, I've said, I really enjoyed the original. I'd be willing to give the remake a chance and see what I could do with it. But that'll be one of those. If I'm ever up for restarting Kingdom Hearts from the beginning, then I would just get to it when I got to that point. So, as for what I've been playing, so I'm not gonna get into it just yet because I'm gonna have a lot to say. Obviously, lots of Dark Souls. I'll revisit that here in a little bit. Of course, playing more Lego Star Wars and Lego Harry Potter with my boys. My oldest son decided that he wanted to go ahead and move on to years 5 through 7 of Harry Potter, which unfortunately does not work with the PlayStation controller at all. The PlayStation controller, I cannot get it to function. Period. And, I mean, usually big picture mode, I don't have any problems. We'll wire the PlayStation controller, and then use the wireless for the Xbox controller. But for some reason, that game does not let me use a PlayStation 5 or a PlayStation 4 controller. It just will not function. Like it'll be working in Steam. Like I can press the PlayStation button, it'll pop up the menu and stuff, but in game it does not work. I messed around with it a bit and I couldn't get it to work. I didn't look into it any further to see if there was any way to make that work, but what I ended up just doing was I used my Steam controller. So, I mean, it worked okay. It's just the placement of everything is still kind of weird, but there's no like real camera controlling, so it's not that big of a deal from that standpoint. I'm still not a big fan of their version of a D-pad. I mean, I know that it can do a lot more than that, and you can very much customize how it functions, but I'm still just not a big fan of that. But I played that anyway, and then with my other son, we're working on Attack of the Clones for Star Wars. We only did 2 levels, so there's that. But yeah, so that's it for those. I did play more Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, and so I was getting stuck, of course, on that one boss that I told you about, the one which isn't the last boss, but it's like the second to last boss. The chick that was possessing Gebel or whatever his name is. And so I was struggling to get through that, and I eventually just ended up deciding, okay, I need to back up and try doing something different. So I went back to face go to the 2 boss rooms that were previously locked with a key. One being the one that uses the Warhorse key. I don't remember what the boss was. And then the other being the Millionaire's key, which is like a slot machine. Like a monster slot machine. And I went and I did those fights. Took a few tries, I think, between each of them, but I was able to do them. And then I finally went back to the Master Carpenter. I decided that I would take a different route to get to him. So instead of having to use a save room that's in a completely different area, then transport, and then go through like a really annoying section where there's lots of flipping upside down and everything, or you're using invert to get to get back to the boss room, and just the trek was one of the more annoying aspects of that fight, of getting to that fight previously. But there's a save room that's above on the map where I started going instead, and it was a lot easier to get back to that room from there. So I went into that, and I did kind of a combination of previous cheese strategies I had seen before, and it wasn't really like cheesing entirely, but what I did end up doing that ultimately helped me win the fight was I realized that if you invert to the ceiling and you stand like directly above his head, then he can't hit you with anything. He can't throw knives at you because he only throws them at an angle. So then I was just doing that, and then I kept using the I I can't remember the something grinder, but it's like a basically like a chainsaw sword that you're just like that you point at them, and then as long as you're holding down your magic button, it just keeps grinding away. So I basically just had to do that, and problem is that at this point I didn't have enough healing items, so I just had to kind of stand underneath him, move as he moved until my magic would regenerate enough, and then I'd use that attack some more. I just kept doing it until eventually he was dead. So I was finally able to take out that jerk. But then I ended up going back to that second to last boss fight, and it took several tries, but I was able to beat that. But I went into the final boss room, which I know is a 2-part thing, and I couldn't even get past the first phase. Like, I got a decent chunk of the way through, I'm sure, but I was not having much success, so I ultimately ended up just kind of giving up for now. Like, I'll come back to it. I think the main thing is, like, I did find a strategy that I think is going to work, but it requires having one of the crystals that I don't have anymore, so I need to go and track that down in order to go back into that. And I don't know, I was just getting annoyed with it. Like, it was not enjoyable for me dealing with that, so I didn't do much with it. But I did it's kind of hard to get. I'm trying to think of the best order to explain this in. One thing I will mention, just as a side thing, I only played for like 10 minutes because the game crashed after 10 minutes. But I did get my physical copy of Pentiment, so ooh. I played that a little bit on Switch. But I think I played like 10 or 15 minutes, and then the game crashed on me, and then like, okay, I guess I'm not playing this anymore right now, and I ended up going back to a different game. But let's see here. Trying to think of the best way to do this order. Okay, so I'll just do it in the order that I played these games. So, Dark Souls, of course. I went through a bunch of bosses. As of last week, I had 7 left, including all the DLC bosses. So I'm going to try to get these in the correct order of how I did them. So first there was Dark Sun Gwendolyn, which is basically like it's a boss it's an optional boss that's under the stairs in on Orlando, and it's one that's like right next to a bonfire. And went through that. It took me several tries, but eventually I was able to get in. Really, the biggest challenge with that fight is that you're running down what seems to be basically an endless hallway, and then the boss will transport back, and it fires like really powerful magic at you, which, I mean, if you avoid it, it's no problem. If you get hit by it, it does a ton of damage. And then it also like does this bow attack that fires a bunch of arrows at you all at once, and so if you don't either figure out a good way to dodge it or just have like a really strong shield, then it's hard to avoid getting hit. So I was using Hovel's Great Shield, which of course blocks the majority of, I mean, it blocks a lot, it blocks all physical damage, at least as long as you have the stamina. And magic, it does pretty well. It's one of the higher rated ones in terms of the kind of magic attacks it blocks. So most of the time with the magic stuff, I was just trying to avoid getting hit by it. And if I did get hit by it, I would have to use a Nestus Flask, of course, right away. So, but like I said, a few tries, was able to beat it. Once I started actually getting like hits on the boss, because you can hit them once and then they teleport backwards, and then you have to keep chasing them until you get either take out all their health or get to the end of the hallway, which is just a very, very, very long hallway. And yeah, so beat that one. Then I started going into the DLC. So The DLC has 4 bosses specifically within it. So the first boss you face is the Sanctuary Guardian, which is basically like it's a chimera, because like lion, eagle, and snakes or something like that. And I went into that fight. Like, it definitely wasn't easy necessarily, but it didn't take me a ton of tries to get through it. I don't have a lot to say about it, other than the fact that it just took me a handful of tries before I beat it. But I did end up, I have the footage recorded. I'll probably have to chop things up when I'm doing the final version of the video, because of the fact that the beginning of the video has, like, the introduction of getting into the DLC, and then doesn't have the part that I'm talking about right now is not actually in this portion of the footage that's being shown. So I'll change that. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so I took down the Sanctuary Guardian. Then getting to Artorias of the Abyss. Now, getting to him was annoying. Because you have a bunch of these creatures that are called Ents. They're not like what I think of as Ents, because of course the creatures that you face in Darkroot Basin and Darkroot Garden, or Darkroot, I guess just really in Darkroot Garden, those ones I think of as Ents, because I think of, Lord of the Rings Ents. These ones are, I believe, actually called Ents, but they're different and they're much worse to deal with. So got a bunch of those plus a bunch of Stone Knights, and just getting through that area was really annoying. I died a lot of times going through that area. So when it came to the actual Artorias fight, so initially I go into it, I figure, all right, I know this is going to be a hard fight. It's well known for being one of the hardest fights of the game. But I also just figured, okay, I'm just going to stick to my strategy. I'm going to have my Hovel Great Shield. I'll carry my Zweihander so that I don't have too much of a load on me, and not any other armor. And I'll go into this fight and just do the best I can. So initially, he's super fast. His attacks are reasonably well telegraphed, but even with that being the case, you just have to be like quick on your reaction times and know how to avoid each of the attacks that he throws at you. Now, the Hovel Great Shield can very easily absorb the attacks from his sword, but of course the big problem is that if you are not careful, it's very easy to still get hit by attacks, because like what would happen to me is I would go in, I would be trying to, I would block his one attack, and then I would attack him, I'd get a good hit in, but then he'd do an immediate follow-up attack and get me. And so I was going down pretty quickly. But, I tried this a few times, at least when I could get back to him. Once I figured out the fastest way to get back to him, then it was easier to get back to him, because you open up a shortcut that makes it significantly faster to get to him. You don't have to deal with so many enemies. It was getting kind of late already, and so I was just at a point where I figured, okay, maybe the best thing for me to do is just, initially I wanted to learn his patterns, because I'd recognized enough of his patterns to where I felt like if I kept working at it, I could definitely eventually get him. Because I'm only dealing with one enemy. This isn't 2 enemies, this is just one guy. And I did this for a little bit, but then because it was getting late, I finally just decided, okay, I think I just need to call it a night, not try this anymore for now. I was talking to my buddy, my buddy who's big Dark Souls guy, and of course he understood where I was coming from and everything. I decided, okay, I'm gonna look up cheese strategies, because I'm just curious, what are the options here? There's one that requires being more of a spellcaster, and so that's not really something I could do because basically I'm just a pyromancer. I can use pyromancy spells, which mostly fire, but there's like poison and a couple other things. There's like a cheese strategy that you can use that basically allows you to slow your fall when you go down like an elevator thing, and then you can go through the abyss area that would ultimately take you to Manus to fight him, and then from there you can go around behind the arena where Artorias is, and then just fire arrows at him through a gap in the fence. And you could just slowly do that if you want to. I didn't want to do that. Plus, of course, I didn't have the right spell for it, or it's like I couldn't cast that spell because of my character class. So I just said, all right, I'll just try this. But I did find a different strategy that I hadn't thought of that ultimately ended up being the right strategy. And that is going with the full hovel set and just letting the poise carry me through. So the strategy that I had seen from someone, they said that this is a no skill strategy. You go in, and this guy's going in with, I'm not sure which axe it was. I think it might have been the Black Knight axe, but I'm not positive. It might have been one of the dragon axes of some kind. Not entirely sure what it was. Didn't really matter too much. The main thing was that, like he basically, he didn't even heal through the fight. He just stood there, attacked Artorias, and Artorias, kept charging at him. But because of how high his poise wasn't flinching. He could do plenty of damage. He barely scraped out with just like a sliver of health left, but was able to take him out. So I decided, okay, I'm going to try this, but instead I'm going to do it with the shield because the shield does such a great job blocking the damage. So I decided to go ahead and do that. And I have, of course, had to heal periodically because I just knew that there was no way I could tank it, especially because my vitality stat was not as high. Like, I had focused primarily on raising my strength, raising my stamina, and so vitality just wasn't high enough for me to actually really be able to utilize that, or to have enough HP to withstand all of his attacks. But sure enough, I followed that strategy. I could block a lot of his attacks, and I mean, it took a little bit, but once I decided to do it that way and was not being careless, because I really only went in twice, I think, with the with the hovel strategy, I was able to beat him. And the unfortunate thing, though, is that in the midst of going through the efforts of getting, basically trying to clean up like some of my recordings, I accidentally deleted the recording where I beat him.
Oh no.
So the recordings I have here only show failed attempts, which is quite unfortunate. Makes me really sad that's the way it turned out. And I just ended up kind of obsessing about this, and I'm just like, man, I cannot believe that I accidentally deleted that. And that's what I was trying to see if I could recover. The problem is that I didn't export the file. I just deleted it directly from the Steam thing. So there wasn't like a video file that I could just go to my trash bin and find the video file. It's like, no, whatever was there, like, it's possible that if I could figure out how properly to use that software, I could get the footage. But I kind of just decided, it seems like it's probably going to be more of a lost cause, and the software doesn't seem simple enough to use to where it's worth it. So I just kind of had to accept, okay, the footage is gone. I'll deal with it. It is what it is. In the meantime, I will talk about something else that I wasn't able to record. Well, it didn't record properly, unfortunately, but I did at least get the footage. So or rather, let me back up. So I went into, after I beat Artorias, I went forward. I went into Ulusiel Township, which is where you ultimately end up facing, Well, Ulusiel Township takes you both to the depths where you will face, or not depths, whatever the name of the area is, where you will ultimately end up facing Manus. Okay, and I was right. This footage does not contain the victory. Anyway, so you ultimately end up going in to face Manus, but before that, you can also go face Calamite, which is like the big black dragon. I don't remember what his actual... I think it's just Black Dragon Calamite. So I go in to... I do most of the Ulusiel Township stuff. I find the area that... the elevator that takes me back up, that will give me ultimately the shortcut so that when I'm ready to go face Manus, I can go down into that area and do all the stuff with that. And go face the dragon. I'm trying to cut off his tail because it's another weapon, but of course his tail is especially difficult to cut off, which is just really, really frustrating. So I'm just like having no success cutting off his tail. I potentially could have beaten him on my first try had I not been trying to cut off the tail, but I was just like, I need to cut off this tail. It's, one of the unique weapons in the game. I need to get it. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't cut off his tail, and because I could hardly even hit it, even when I was lower. Even when I had a low equipment load and had plenty of mobility, I just couldn't hit his tail. It did take me a bunch of tries, not like Ornstein Smaug bunch of tries, but still a bunch of tries to actually get through that fight, but I was able to get through it. Unfortunately, even though I recorded it, the screen was entirely black for the video. So I don't have any footage of that either. I discovered later on what it was that caused that, but I'll get to that. And so I beat Black Dragon Calamite, went ahead and I moved forward to down to the Abyss area where Manus is at the very end. And when you're going through this, pretty close to the end, you can actually find the puppy version of Sif. And because basically this whole DLC is you went back in time. So you can find the puppy version of Sif, you rescue her, and then you can summon her for the fight against Manus. She's not super effective in that fight, but you can use her. So I go into the Manus fight. First time, I just was being careless. I got myself killed. And I didn't summon Sif that time either. So go back in the second time, make sure I'm human so that I can go ahead and actually summon Sif because I wanted to. And Sif was good for distracting him some of the time. But really, with that hovel armor and shield and everything, the guy could barely touch me. And it was fantastic. I beat him on my second try. It wasn't terribly difficult because of the insane poise and just how much damage that armor or that shield can block. It is crazy good. And my buddy told me that Dark Souls 1 poise is just completely busted. And I can see what he's talking about. He's absolutely right about that. So yeah, I beat Manus. Unfortunately, that's another one where I got a black screen for the recording. So yeah, I don't have the footage for that at all. I can't prove anything except just saying that this is what happened. I can prove that I beat him because I have the soul of Manus, but that's the extent of what I can prove, is that I beat him. So there's that. So then I went ahead and I looked into, okay, what else is there to do? You can do preparation for New Game Plus, which I opted not to do most of it, mostly because it didn't quite occur to me that the second you beat the final boss, it takes you, right after the credits roll, you go directly into New Game Plus. You don't even get to go back to a menu and then create a New Game Plus. You just go directly into it. You just wake up in the undead asylum again with all of your gear and levels and everything intact. So I did, going back before that, I did go ahead and I beat Gwyn, Lord of Cinder. And I gotta tell ya, that was too easy. I mean, yes, I did go in with the Hovel armor set, which certainly made it extremely easy. I also summoned Solaire because I knew that, hey, this is my last chance to use him because of the fact that, this is the last fight of the game. And so I summoned him, and he ended up, unfortunately, he got the final blow on the boss, but in general, I was doing more damage. I mean, he was a lot faster than me because, I was wearing the full Hovel set with the shield and wielding a great sword. But yeah, first try, no problems. That one I did get recorded. So that one is playing as part of my footage. And yeah, and then I got the ending. I was trying to figure out a way to, seeing if there was a way that I could duplicate my file so that I could get both endings back to back. Basically, I just have to rebeat the boss again. But it seemed like it was going to be a little more complicated than I wanted it to be. And since I didn't fully realize how the New Game Plus thing worked, I didn't think to be like, okay, I need to back up, get a copy of my save file so that I can just go back, do this fight one more time, and then get the other ending. But yeah, so beat the game, did one of the two endings for the game, and yeah, I loved it. Fantastic game. But because of the fact that I decided to go back into the game, because of the fact that it took me directly to New Game Plus, I just went ahead and played some more. And I didn't record all of the fights that I've done so far. So let me just go through the list of what I've done, and some of these I'll probably add the footage when I'm doing the editing. But the boss. Oh, you know what? There's another boss that I did earlier after Dark Sun Gwendolyn that was another one I wasn't able to get the footage. I didn't get the footage recorded, and that was Gravelord Nito down in the Tomb of the Giants. So took me several tries to get done, but I was able to beat him. He wasn't terribly hard. It was actually harder getting to him than it was to actually beat him, even though it still took me several tries to beat him. Yeah, so the bosses that I've beaten so far in New Game Plus, of course, Asylum Demon, Taurus Demon. The Asylum Demon, I actually just beat him the first time that I saw him, rather than going through all the extra stuff and having to do the dropping attack in order to do extra damage to him and all that. I just killed him the first time I saw him, and then did the rest of the stuff in the Asylum and went on my merry way. Beat the Taurus Demon. That one, I think it took me 3 total hits, mostly to kill him, mostly because, the first one, of course, was the diving attack. If I had done a second one of those, it would have only taken 2 hits. But I just decided to use regular attacks on him, and the second attack didn't quite kill him, but the third attack did, so. Did the Bell Gargoyles. Those ones actually took me a bit longer, but it was mostly because of the fact that I was trying to cut off the tail because I hadn't done that in my first playthrough, or at least not on this version of the game. I only did it on the Switch. So that took me a few tries to get through, but I did get through that. Decided to just go straight to Quelaag after that, down in Blighttown. Just took the back way in and beat her my first try without any real issues. She was pretty easy this time around. Of course, I went in with the full Hovel set, so it was just like it was nice to just be able to take out these bosses so stinking easily. And it took me a while to remember how to get back to the depths, because I hadn't done that yet. So I did eventually get down there, and I took down the Capra Demon on my first try, which was so satisfying. It's just like he started running at me, and the second he was running at me, I can't remember if I swung first or if I just blocked his attack and then swung at him, but it just took a few hits to take him down. So that was very satisfying to be able to take him down so easily. I didn't even have to, throw poop at him this time. So there was that. The Gaping Dragon, that one actually took me several tries, which was surprising. It's like the bosses that I should say, the Gaping Dragon is one of the bosses that I think both times I've gone and fought him, both on the Switch version and on the Steam version, I did not die. Or if I died, it was only once. This time I died like several times before I actually beat him. And I think... yeah, I didn't need to cut off his tail, but I did anyway, mostly because of the fact that it makes it so he doesn't swing it at... he can't swing it at you, because that tail's annoying. So that took me several tries, unfortunately. Did the Iron Golem, and that one I think took me 2, maybe 3 tries. It was definitely a lot faster this time. I didn't summon anyone this time around, so it was just I just swung my sword at him some, and I think the only reason I died to him the first time was because he grabbed me and threw me over the edge. I think he might have actually thrown me over the edge twice. So that's the only real reason that I lost that one. And then back to old Ornstein and Smough. So I will back up before I talk about those guys here. So what? I think I forgot to get the footage in here, or I just didn't have time earlier. Okay, well, I'll just add it later. So, going through Orlando. This time around, I decided. Now that I know that there's all those other bonfires, because I haven't yet done Pinwheel, I can't ignite the bonfires that are not already ignited further beyond the 10. So, but I did have at least one. I think just one bonfire I have right now for sure that is ignited to the point of 20 Estus flasks. Or well, there's 2. There's the one by Dark Sun Gwendolyn, which I'm not fighting this time around. I just decided I wouldn't do that because it wasn't necessary. I already got the achievement. And then there's the one up by the Princess, which of course I can't get to until I beat Ornstein and Smough. So I'm using this one by Gwendolyn as my base because it's where I can get my 20 Estus flasks every time. And I think I must have just gotten really lucky the first time I went through Orlando, because the first time I went through, I had no issues with those silver archers. None. I got past them on my first try, no problems whatsoever. Not the case this time. Oh my goodness. Oh, they pissed me off so much. Oh man. And it was mostly the knockback. It's like, okay, getting hit by the arrows, yeah, that hurts. But I have Pavel's shield, I can block it, even and everything. But the problem is that the knockback is so bad that even if I would get up close to them, they'd knock me off the edge. Or I would get close enough to swing my sword at them, and then I would fall off the edge.
Oh,
and I was like, I cannot believe this, because this is the only portion where the Silver Knight archers are really a big issue. Because otherwise, you have plenty of room to move around. You can very easily avoid their attacks. No problem. But it's just this one section. And so I'm going up to them, getting knocked off constantly. Ultimately, I checked out Fighting Cowboy, see what his strategy was. And he gave the best strategy, which I'm so glad he did, and that is just using poison arrows on them. Get them poisoned, and if the poison runs out, poison them again, and then just let them die that way. It's like, okay, I'm fine with that. I'm not above that. It's like, this is a legitimate strategy. These guys are annoying. This is the only thing keeping me from being able to move forward. And So I got through them. Got to Ornstein and Smough. Or, well, got the door open first because I did not want to go through all that again. That would have been terrible. Oh, man, that would have been horrific. Either that or, well, I guess if I hadn't been able to get the doors open for whatever reason, at least I had gotten the bonfire that was inside the castle. So, yeah, I wouldn't have as many Estus flasks, but at least I wouldn't have to deal with the archers again because I did not want to deal with them. So go into Ornstein and Smough. Now, of course, like I said, I don't have the footage here in terms of where I'm at currently with them. I did record my most recent attempts, and I haven't beaten them yet. The thing is that like I know, especially with the amount of damage I'm dealing now, even though they have more HP, I could beat them if I just stuck with the same kill Ornstein first, then kill Smough. But I want to get Ornstein's stuff, which requires that I kill Smough first. Now, I was able several times to get Smough killed and then get Super Ornstein. And I was doing reasonably well, but I still had issues because just occasionally, one of those cheap hits would get me at just the right time. But most of the time, I can't even get that far because while I'm focused on Smough, Ornstein cheap shots me all the freaking time. And, sometimes his attacks literally go through Smough. Like, he'll fire his lightning bolt, and it literally goes through Smough. Or he'll stab his spear. It'll go through Smough to hit me when I'm attacking Smough.
Wow.
So,
wow.
I have not beaten them yet. I did ultimately end up attempting to do the Hovel strategy. It hasn't quite worked out for me yet. Like, I can block their attacks. Of course, because I'm holding the shield with one hand, I'm not able to do as much damage in it, per hit, but I can also block attacks more easily. Of course, I can tank them to a degree because of the fact that I have such high poise, but it's just like there's only so much I can do with that. And so I'm kind of all over the place with this right now because like I want to keep playing New Game Plus because I want to, partially because I want to be able to get weapons I missed, and because I want to actually record my footage for beating Artorias and Manus especially. But I haven't. I just haven't gotten that far. I mean, like, the main reason why I'm doing this before I do anything like, for example, going down to the catacombs and fighting pinwheels so that I can get the Rite of Kindling, so that I can get more Estus flasks on all the bonfires that are not already fully ignited. I also just really want the warp function, so, like, okay, Ornstein and Smough, that's highest priority right now. Is get through them, and then I can go do the Rite of Kindling and all that after the fact. But, I do want to note, you were right about being able to get down and place the Lord Vessel. It's just dropping through that hole in that Frampt is normally out of in the Firelink Shrine. If you drop through that hole, it'll take you down to the Firelink Altar, where you place the Lord Vessel. So that's how you were able to get there. You were absolutely right on that. I was wrong. Because I mean, realistically, after you, when you get further along in the game, like you can still warp to the abyss and then get swallowed and taken there if you want, but it's much faster to just go from the Firelink Shrine and just drop down the hole. Then you can go right in there. So, yeah. So that's basically where I am with Dark Souls. I'm not sure if if I can get past Ornstein and Smough, I think the rest of them will be easier. I have to say, I still maintain, after beating all the bosses in the game, Ornstein and Smough is the biggest pain in the butt. Because there's two of them. Now, if you learn Ornstein's attacks well enough to where you can avoid them and get your hits in and everything else, I think it would be easier. Like, it would be much easier, but because I'm so determined to get Super Ornstein so that I can get the gear and stuff from him that you can't get unless you kill Smough first, it's taking me longer. So I will do it. I'm just not sure the timing on that. Now, the last game, well, okay, there's 2 games. I do want to note the reason why it is that I got those black recordings has to do with trying to record non-Steam games. So apparently that causes issues, and you can, recording non-Steam games on a Steam Deck. I don't know if it's the case on PC itself, but it is on a Steam Deck. So if you have that issue, if you go to desktop mode and then start up a game, and I think if you try to record from there, then it works fine after that. So I haven't had any issues since I went back and did that. But anyway, when I initially finished Dark Souls, I decided that I would try out Demon's Souls, the PS3 version, on the Steam Deck, because you can get 60 frames per second on that, thanks to fan patches, which also makes it possible to disable motion blur and do a couple other things. So I played a little bit of that. I don't have footage recorded because that's a non-Steam game. I tried recording it. It's entirely black footage, and it didn't work. And then, of course, that messed up all my recordings for Dark Souls after that, because basically I had tried it first after I finished the Artorias fight. I tried Demon's Souls, and I tried playing a bit more after I actually finished Dark Souls initially, and I kind of like it, but it doesn't have Estus flasks. It just has healing items, and those are much more limited. You know, they don't regenerate when you die, or, you know, when you visit whatever the equivalent of a bonfire is. I don't know if there actually is anything like that in the game, or if it's just like, because you have like a hub area and then you go off into the different areas, if it's just basically you have to get through that whole area before you can. I mean, if you die somewhere in that area, you start back from the very beginning, because that's what's happened to me so far. So I didn't get real far in it. I'll probably record some footage to put in the podcast later on, or, you know, tomorrow or something. I'll probably just hook up my Steam Deck and record it that way. I have heard that if you play it on PC, you can easily get 120 frames per second and everything on that game, and it's great. So it's one that I might go into, at least after I finish New Game Plus, but I'm not entirely sure on that front. I basically essentially borrowing my friend's copy of the game. So, but it will be a good Steam Deck game for sure. There's a lot of things I like about it. It's just the healing thing that I'll have to mess around with it to figure out how to do that without just having the frustrations that I have right now. All right, so last game I played. I know I've been talking for a while, but we don't have as much to talk about tonight. Anyway, Kingdom Hearts 3. So Kingdom Hearts 3, I played a bit on my PC, and I tried recording it. I think that because my graphics driver was outdated, it didn't record properly, because it recorded like 2 seconds and then it just stopped. And it did that like multiple times. So unfortunately, I don't have any of that footage. I'll probably try to see if I can get some recorded if I have time tomorrow. If not, then I'll just do it the next time I play. So I can't quite do 4K 60. At least not, you know, actual 4K, because if I do 200% resolution, then it would be actual 4K. I mean, it would be rendering at 4K, downscaling to 1080p, so that it would work with that. When I do that, I'm only getting around like 45 to 60 typically, which is not really good enough for playing on PC. So I did 175% resolution. I was getting around 80 frames per second. Pretty good. Pretty satisfied with that. And like I said, I don't have the footage recorded because it didn't record properly. But then when I switched back to playing it on Steam Deck, of course, it's another one of those games where it does not keep the settings separate, so it carried over my 175% resolution with all high settings. Oh, and that's with all max settings, by the way. That's max settings on everything, so that if I change some settings, I might be able to do better. I might be able to do the 4K 60 if I modified some settings, but I didn't really feel like it. So yeah, it did that. I mean, thankfully, of course, I checked that before I started playing, so that because otherwise it would have been like 10 frames per second, and that would have been terrible. But I didn't play a lot on Steam Deck. I think so. I finished up Olympus. I finished up Olympus the other day, which is basically I just finished that up on PC, and then got partway into Twilight Town, and I stopped, and I picked it back up today when I just needed a break from Dark Souls, and I do have some footage. This is all Steam Deck footage. Still, I'm super impressed with how great it looks and how great it runs on the Steam Deck. It's just, oh man, I'm so happy with that. But yeah, I didn't play super far. I basically just finished up the stuff for Twilight Town, and then just barely started the Toy Box world, which is the Toy Story world, with knockoff Tom Hanks and Tim Allen voicing the characters. I think that they were able to maintain Wallace Shawn for Rex and John Ratzenberger for why can't I never remember the pig's name?
Ham?
It's just okay. It's Ham. Yeah, I was just like, it's not Piggy. It's not. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, yeah. I think that those two are still in it. Either that or just people that are actually really good at imitating them. The Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, the discount versions of them, you can definitely tell it's not quite the same person. Either that or they like really phoned it in. But I'm guessing it's probably just not the same person in either case. But yeah, so I played a bit of that. One thing I do want to note, so I have never been a fan of the gummy ship stuff in these games. I mean, Kingdom Hearts 1, it was definitely the worst by far. It was just awful. Kingdom Hearts 2, it was better than 1, but it still wasn't really all that great. This one, it's an improvement, but I still don't like it. I just like when I get into this mandatory thing to get to the next world, I'm just like, can we just skip this, please? Can I just not do this and just get back to the actual action? And of course, there's a ton of cutscenes as well, which, like, okay, yes, there's lore, it's interesting, but the problem is that there's too many cutscenes without enough gameplay to get me to those cutscenes. And I don't know if that's the way it is the entire game, or if it's just like right now that's what it is. But like, I want to play the regular gameplay. I want to play the, killing Heartless and, opening treasure chests and all that stuff. And I mean, to be clear, like the gummy ship gameplay is not bad. It's just not what I want to do. I don't want to do these shoot 'em up type things. Like I just want to play Kingdom Hearts, the regular Kingdom Hearts stuff. That's what I want to play. That's what I've been looking forward to playing that I haven't played in years. I mean, the last one I played all the way through was Dream Drop Distance on 3DS. And that was, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago that I played through that. But yeah, it's just like I just want to play the normal game. This is the first Kingdom Hearts game I played in quite a while. I waited many years to play Kingdom Hearts 3. And now I just want to do the Kingdom Hearts stuff and not the gummy ship stuff. Even though it's better than it was, it's still just not what I want to do right now. But hopefully that'll kind of change and the other worlds will be a little bit longer so that I feel like I get more of the content that I actually want. And not just cutscene, 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 cutscene. 15 minutes later. Okay, now you get to play a little bit. Oh, guess what? There's another 10 minutes of cutscenes. Oh. Anyway, so yeah, and the little bit that I played of the Toy Story world was pretty cool too. I've definitely been excited about doing Toy Story World because I've always, I mean, of course I love Toy Story, having grown up with it and everything, but also just because I always thought that would be an interesting world to do. I don't know if you ever played any of the Army Men games on like Nintendo 64 back in the day.
Yes.
But those ones are just like, they're classics. And yes, you play them now, they don't control well and they run terribly. But I just always loved that, um, especially the one level in the multiplayer where you're in basically the kitchen slash bathroom, whatever it is. Like, that is my favorite level of that whole game, and just because you're this little tiny soldier going through this huge environments, and I don't know what it is about it, but I just love it so much. And I love that kind of thing. I kind of wish I was smaller in the Toy Story environment than I am, but it is what it is. Um, but yeah, I think that's basically everything. Yeah, that seems to be it. I don't think I did anything else because, like I said, Pentiment I played for like 15 minutes and then it crashed on me. So I didn't play long enough to be able to say I like it or I don't like it yet. I don't know. It's too early.
Nice. Well, first off, congratulations on getting through the entirety of Dark Souls. And in fact, you know what? I tip my hat off to you for facing all those DLC bosses with such little frustration. I mean, because those guys really irritated me quite a bit. So the fact that you got through it as painlessly as you did, I definitely have to say kudos to that. Yeah, and I definitely agree that with Gwendolyn boss fight about the special arrow attack being a pain, because I thought you could hide from them if you go behind a pillar, but apparently that doesn't completely work, or sometimes the game just glitches out, because sometimes he fires those arrows and it's hit me right behind the pillar, and I was wondering why it hit me, because it should be able to block it. Because I thought originally I heard that was a strategy, whereas when he's about to fire those like special arrows, then you hide behind a pillar, unless you can block it with a shield.
Yeah.
But try to hide, because you'd have to get your timing right if you actually want to dodge through it.
Right.
But
yeah, because he just fires like a ton of them.
Yeah. It's
like a machine gun of arrows.
Yeah, and then you just keeps teleporting away. Like, stand still and face me. But yeah, definitely good. And yeah, it definitely seems to be breezing through new game plus. I mean, granted, you have everything carrying over, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at like it's level 104 right now, so I think when I went into the Gwyn fight, I was like level 93, so I was definitely over leveled. I mean, like I could see potentially if I hadn't had the hovel set on, it may have taken me longer. And I mean, I'm sure that probably having what's his face Solaire, yes, thank you. Having Solaire there helping me out certainly, made the fight go faster, but I feel like because of that hovel set, I mean, I could block, I think it was doing like maybe a tenth of my stamina damage from one of his attacks with that shield. I mean, it was hardly doing anything. Like, I did get hit a few times, but I think it was just like, I don't know, it was just a bad angle or something. Either way, it's like I didn't have any trouble with that fight at all. That was the easiest fight I've had the entire game. And obviously I was over leveled, but yeah, anyway. I'll let you continue if you had more commentary.
Oh, yeah. So I was going to ask you a question, which was, so, I mean, you kind of answered it, but, I don't know if you really were going to consider continuing it all the way through the end or not. So, assuming, of course, you don't continue through it, I mean, you might decide you want to keep playing through this. What would you say the next Souls game you tackle would be if you don't complete, if you decide you don't want to keep playing Demon's Souls?
Well, if I don't do Demon's Souls, I'm going to say more likely than not, I would probably do Jedi Fallen Order because I already have that game. I mean, there's other potential things like Mortal Shell, which I'm just less interested in in general. I mean, it was a super cheap game, so I don't care as much. The only other thing that I might potentially do, well, I should say, if there was a good sale on it, I might get Dark Souls 3, because from what I mean, initially I was thinking, okay, I'll do Dark Souls 2, because I want to play it eventually, but I think that especially after talking to my buddy about it, it's probably better that I just go straight into 3, because 3's what everyone considers a better game. I know it was in your top, was it top 3 games of all time or top 5? I can't remember. I mean,
I think top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like right now, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not planning to buy it. Maybe when it goes on sale, if it's a time when like I have a paycheck that's not a mortgage paycheck, because that's basically what my entire paycheck goes to is, yay, I get to pay more mortgage. But yeah, I mean, right now I will say I am planning to get through New Game Plus this time around. I'm probably not going to do a third New Game Plus, at least not anytime soon. I will eventually, because I would like to eventually get all the achievements, but I don't think I have it in me to do a third run through. Mostly just because, like, a big part of the reason why I wanted to do New Game Plus was because of the fact that I didn't get the footage recorded properly for those 2 boss fights. And yes, of course, now it'll be like, well, of course you can beat them that easily because it's New Game Plus and you're over leveled. But it's like I can't prove it. All I can do is say this is what happened. And yes, Artorias still took me several tries at least before I decided to. I think I probably did like 4 or 5 tries minimum. It's possible it was less than that. Before I decided to try the Hovel armor. And then even then, the first time I fought him with the Hovel armor, I went in with a shield, but I was careless, and so I got myself killed very quickly. The second time I went in with my Hovel armor, but I went without a shield and just went 2-handed, and that was not the right decision, because I died much faster that time. And then I think it was the third time that I went with the Hovel set with the shield, and it was so much easier. And it's just a different strategy, because poise is busted in this game. And it's like, even though I was a little disappointed with myself for not actually like trying to learn his patterns well enough to where I could just dodge the attacks and beat him without what is essentially a cheese strat, albeit a very legitimate cheese strat, because you're still having to do something. It just doesn't require much of any skill. I still, I wanted to have that footage, and I wanted to have it for posterity and be able to say, hey, anybody who's looking for an easy way to beat this guy, this is what you need to do. Now, granted, I have 60 strength, so that's a big part of the reason why I can move at a decent pace even with that. I mean, like, I could just barely get to him in time to stop him when he was charging up his power-up thing. I mean, it's like, I could get to him. I got to him both times. The first time was, like, halfway through the fight, and then the last time was, like, the last third of his health, and I was able to, still just barely get to him. And, of course, Zweihander has that great reach, and so I could actually hit him out of it just barely. So he never got to power up, but, yeah.
Nice. For the final boss in Bloodstained, I'm hoping I'm not confusing this strategy with Zangetsu, but I think, I could be wrong, but I think it's possible to avoid a lot of damage but still get some hits in if you jump behind the final boss when they're doing a special attack, because they're too busy attacking in front of them. You can just like get a couple good hits before they turn around and face you.
The strategy that I found, that is part of what you have to do. The big problem is when she uses that giant laser that like it
Yeah.
goes off both ways and then it rotates, and it rotates all the way around, and so it's like you can avoid it to a degree, but you can only avoid so much. And I mean, I suppose maybe if I were to like invert while she's doing that and then invert again to avoid it, it might be possible. I hadn't really thought about that until now. That might be a legitimate strategy. I'm just like, I'm just not feeling it right at the moment, and I want to, because I want to finish the game so that I can at least say, hey, I finished it, because I loved most of the game. It's just right now it's frustrating to me. it's not like I'm just not feeling it, you know. And I will get back to it. I will finish it. It's just I don't know if it's going to be immediately or not. I think also the problem is that, like, especially with Dark Souls, you know, I'm so at a point where I feel like I need to at the very least finish Ornstein and Smaug before I just cut it off, because while I do think, yes, if I beat them, then I could probably get through the rest of it without too much difficulty, especially because I know to some degree some shortcuts and things like that that can save me some time and all of that. But even with that being the case, I just feel like I don't want to get my muscle memory to go away, because especially with Ornstein and Smaug being such a challenging fight, you know, a lot of the other ones I can block and then attack, and it's like I can take them out more easily, more or less. I mean, of course, Bed of Chaos is just the different strategy that you have to do. I have no idea if there is an easier way to take out Ceaseless Discharge. There might be easier than what I did last time, but I don't know. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I think those are all my comments. But yeah, definitely, again, good job completing it.
Yeah. It is satisfying to have finally done it after all this time. And, you know, it's definitely given me the confidence to know that I could definitely do another Souls game for sure. It's just trying to decide where to go. And I think more likely than not, if Demon Souls just doesn't keep me going, especially knowing that Demon Souls, there's a boss that can literally steal your levels multiple times.
Oh man! Oh no!
Oh
no!
I mean, it's hard to say exactly what I would do with that. Oh yeah, and it's permanent too. They don't just steal them for part of the fight. It's like they steal them, they're gone. So that's one thing that definitely is making me reconsider it. If I could do save states though, then that would make it all right, because then I could just save state partway through. But yeah, I did have to remap the controls on that one though, because the way that it controls is very different from how I play Dark Souls, because I got used to the way Dark Souls controlled on the Switch, and I think I even had to switch when I started playing Dark Souls. I had to change from how I was playing Elden Ring, because Elden Ring controls one way. I think Dark Souls controlled a little bit differently, or maybe it just controlled differently because of how they changed the mappings based on the position of the buttons versus the function of the buttons. And so I got used to the way that one of them controlled, and then I started playing that way instead. And then when I started playing Dark Souls on Steam, I mapped the controls so that they would function the same way they did on Switch. And it may just be Demon Souls is the same way that it's always been, and that I've just been controlling it based off of how I played Dark Souls on Switch. And anyway, I was able to get everything mapped the way I wanted to, so that it wouldn't throw off my muscle memory. But yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I think that's everything. All right. Any other thoughts before we get into the news?
No, sir.
All right. So, topics for tonight. So, yesterday, August 27th, we had a combination, for the first time, Nintendo Indie World presentation and third-party partner showcase. And there was a bunch of announcements I believe it was a total of 48 announcements between the two directs back to back in a 40-minute span for the whole thing. Um, I'm not going to cover right now like every single game that was announced. Um, well, actually, I guess I can just read down the list, and then after I go through the list, uh, I'll start with the indie world. You can tell me if there's anything that stood out to you in that, and then we'll go into um, the partner showcase after that. So, games that were announced, there was a free update for Balatro, which adds basically cards themed off of The Witcher 3, Dave the Diver, and what you call it, Among Us.
Vampire Survivors.
Oh yeah, and Vampire Survivors. That's right. So it was 4 games. That's something that released for free yesterday. Then an updated trailer for the game Neva, which is from the creators of Gris, Gris. Moth Cubit, I don't even remember which one that was, but that's another one. Coffee Talk Tokyo, which is a cozy kind of game, I guess. The DLC for Sea of Stars that is coming next year. It is free DLC. This is called Throes of the Watchmaker. Power Wash Simulator is getting a special pack, a Shrek-themed special pack. I can't remember if that one's... that one's not a free one. Morsels, which is like a roguelike, I believe, type of game with pixel art. Date Everything, which apparently you can date furniture and toasters and anything in this house that it like turns into a humanoid character thing. Peglin, which is like is basically like a Peggle like wobbly life, which I can picture it in my head. I don't know how to describe it because I didn't care. Pico Park 2, which is like a multiplayer, a co-op multiplayer puzzle thing. Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope Deluxe, or DX rather, that's coming next year. Europa. This is just in a sizzle reel, by the way. Cuisine Near, which looks like it's kind of Hades-like almost, with cooking-related stuff. I'm not entirely sure. On Your Tail, I don't remember which one that is. Metal Slug Tactics, The Plucky Squire, which we already knew about, and that comes out in a couple weeks. And Pizza Tower, which has long been requested and is a Wario Land-like game. Been out on PC and I believe other platforms for a while, but just came out on the Switch as of yesterday. So anything that stood out to you in all those?
I must have forgotten that this was mentioned because when I saw Neva, I thought, this seems interesting. Game from the creators of Gris that seems to be more combat focused than the previous game. So it seemed interesting. I like the art style a lot. Granted, the art style in Gris definitely was very interesting to look at. I haven't played it, but I remember you played it during one of your live streams. But this seemed interesting enough that I thought maybe I'll give this a shot when it comes out. And, eventually maybe I'll also pick up Gris as well at some point. That's been something that I've been considering getting, but just never got around to it.
Right.
Just because of other games and stuff. But that one definitely stood out to me. I'm glad that Pizza Tower came to the Switch. Considering the fact that it is a Wario Land type of game, the fact that something like that not being on the Switch, it would seem kind of odd. But glad that it has made it here. But nothing else really stood out to me too much. Initially I thought Balatro, in a combination with the other collaborations, also meant that Vampire Survivors was going to get some sort of patch and update. And I was very sad because that would mean I would have to go back into the game and play some more to get more achievements, which I technically already have to do because there was a free update. But the fact that I would have to do more stuff was I really am begging the game developer to stop adding stuff to the game because I just can't do it anymore. But I'm glad that it was just for Bal Outro and Vampire Survivors is not getting anything. I'm sorry. But
yeah. All right, so stuff that stood out to me. Well, the Sea of Stars DLC for sure, especially the fact that it's free. And I'm very glad it doesn't come out till next year because it's like I want to play it, but I want there to be like a gap in my game schedule. Like, well, I should say a point where like I'm done with something to where I feel like, okay, I can squeeze this in before I go to my next big game, because this is just, it's just DLC, it's an extra thing. So that I'm happy about, that it's free and that it doesn't come till next year. Most of the games I just did not care about at all. Morsels looked cool at first, and then when I saw it was like a roguelike or roguelite, whichever it is, I was like, no thanks, I'm not interested. Europa actually looked kind of cool, and of course it was just in the sizzle reel, but it's like, this game looks kind of cool. I'd be interested in this. Lucky Squire, I've thought that game looked cool for a while, but it's not something I'm in any rush to buy. Pizza Tower, when they do a physical version, I'd probably get it. But I'm not even going to bother with it before then. So, yeah, overall, the indie direct, I was just kind of like, meh. It was a whole lot of stuff I just didn't care about. The Partner Showcase had some pretty good stuff in there, though. So, yeah. Let me go ahead and... dang it. Give me 1 second. Alright, so... the Partner Showcase. Let's go through all the announcements there. So, first we had Tetris Forever, which is just a compilation of a bunch of mostly more obscure Tetris games. Star Overdrive. I guess it's starting off as a Switch console exclusive, so obviously it'll be going to other platforms. I don't know if it will be on PC the same day. I'm guessing so. Goat Simulator 3, which came out on the 27th. Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky the First, which I believe is a remake of the original game, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, I was really shocked because it seemed like it was running at 60 frames per second, but it had all Switch buttons, so I'm like, is this game actually running at 60 on the Switch? No way. It wouldn't surprise me in the least, though, if it ends up being one of those where it's the trailer's in 60 because they're basically doing the PC footage, and then when you play the game, it's not at all, not even close. But anyway, getting out off of that, next thing that was announced was the next season of Star Wars Hunters, Stalkers Legends of the Zone Trilogy, Worms Armageddon Anniversary Edition, Disney Dreamlight Valley End of Summer in-game event, SpongeBob SquarePants The Patrick Star Game, Fitness Boxing 3, Capcom Fighting Collection 2, which includes Power Stone 1 and 2, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. I think that's just the one that we already knew about, but it has a release date for the digital version on the 12th of September. I don't think they said anything about when the physical is coming and whether that's going to be in stores or just limited run. Atelier Yumiya, The Alchemist of Memories and the Envisioned Land is early 2025. A Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster is coming in March 2025. Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D Remake is coming the 14th of November for this year. The Castlevania Dominus Collection, which is a collection of the DS Castlevania games, as well as one of the original Castlevania games before it became Castlevania. Both the original arcade version of that, as well as a remake that appears to be exclusive to the collection, if I'm not mistaken. Sid Meier's Civilization 7, Tales of Grace's F Remastered, My Sims Cozy Bundle, Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2, and Security Breach. I think, Security Breach is a Security Breach Ruin. So Security Breach is one that's already out, and Ruin's a DLC for that, and Help Wanted 2 is a separate game. Both coming holiday 2024. Epic Mickey Refurbished is coming the 24th of September, so pretty soon. Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game, which is holiday 2024. Just Dance 2025, October 15th. Funko Fusion, holiday 2024. EA Sports FC 25, September 27th. Lego Horizon Adventures, still just tentative holiday 2024. Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, and Yakuza Kiwami. So, go ahead and tell me your standout announcements from that. And I think we can talk about Castlevania separately because I know we both are excited about that.
So, Star Overdrive, that really caught my attention. Initially, just because of the cel-shaded art style. I mean, I can be a pretty good sucker for cel-shaded games just because it's so creative how like you can make stuff look that I'm just like, okay, you got my attention. But the gameplay also seemed interesting. It seemed like almost kind of, I don't want to say like maybe a bit of Zelda stuff, especially because of the fact that you can, or at least from what I saw, you could manipulate stuff, sort of like how you could do with the Sheikah Slate, where you could pick up like metal objects and move them around. So like it seemed definitely interesting, you know, and also being able to traverse on your hoverboard. I am also interested in knowing like what it looks like as far as with multi-platform. Is they said console exclusive, but like you said, does that mean it's only console exclusive when it releases and it's also coming out on PC day one, or is it coming out later on? That's what I'm very curious about. But that definitely caught my attention. I was like, I'll keep this on my radar.
Was that it?
Sorry. But then also some Yakuza Kiwami, that really caught my attention because of the fact that I can't remember if it was like one of the producers or one of the directors or someone who was pretty high up in the series who said that the series would most likely never go to the Switch just because of the audience surrounding it, because it was a more family-friendly device. And I mean, I feel like part of the reason why is because of the fact that Kiwami, I think 1 and 2 flopped on the Wii U, but granted, that was also a Switch, a Japan-only title. We didn't get it over here. But the funny thing is, I would have bought Kiwami when I first heard about Yakuza if it came to the Switch originally. So the fact that it took such a long time, but it finally got here, is good news. I'm hoping that, you know, with Kiwami, eventually that means also Kiwami 2, maybe getting 3 through 6 remastered. Definitely 0. I would definitely say 0 should come over as well. I mean, I feel like if you're going to have Kiwami, you should have 0 because of the fact that Kiwami changed some stuff, or rather added context because of 0. So when they remade Yakuza 1, they added some elements from 0's story to shape Kiwami. So I'm definitely interested in seeing how that goes. I have a feeling it definitely... I have no reason to believe that this shouldn't run at 60 FPS. I feel like it should, because I think Kiwami originally came out... I could be wrong, but I think it came out on the PS3. But I don't think it's that demanding of a game anyway that, you know, it shouldn't hit 60 on the Switch. So that should be good. But yeah, I think those were pretty much my big mainline ones. I mean, granted, I was intrigued by the fact that Power Stones 1 and 2 are coming in the Capcom Fighting Collection, but just because I still don't trust Capcom because of how they've they were shady with adding in this DRM in old games where they remove the DRM, I might not buy it, but
Well, you just get it on
Power
Switch.
Stone won't work. Well, that is true. I click at the Switch.
Because then you don't have to deal with DRM. Or at least not
True.
that kind of DRM. And it should run at 60 without any question.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I could probably do that then.
And then you can get it physical too.
True.
Which is another good thing to do, especially with games that are rare.
Oh yeah, because trying to buy a copy of that nowadays. The original Dreamcast version.
Yeah. Any others?
No, I think those were my big ones. Although I just as a quick thing, I'm a slightly. I mean, granted, it probably would be weird if they announced it here at a Nintendo Direct, but I am a bit slightly disappointed that we didn't have anything more concrete with Lego Horizon.
Yeah.
I feel like we're getting close enough where we probably could get a more concrete date. But yeah.
Well, there are rumors that we'll be getting another PlayStation showcase sometime soon, so probably they would announce the release date then. Seems like the most likely scenario, especially because it's, a first-party PlayStation game, or, well, basically first-party, at least using first-party IP. So. All right, so let's see here. First of all, I do want to mention with Yakuza Kiwami, the trailer, I don't think it was even close to 60. It looked like it was like 30 at best. So I hope I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I will be very happy. Because they really should put more 60 frames per second games on Switch. Especially when they're older games like that. There's just no excuse. Except that they're lazy. And that's really all there is to it. But I thought it was cool that it's coming, especially knowing the fact that there was some of those games that were on the Wii U in Japan only and never came to the US. If they had come to the Wii U, I would have bought them for sure, especially because I was such a Wii U fanboy, and it's like that would have been a good excuse to play them. But yeah, either way, I think it's cool. I'll definitely at least look into that one. Probably more so just for a collection standpoint, but we'll kind of see how that goes. Otherwise, Star Overdrive definitely was the first thing that stood out to me. I think it just looks really cool. It immediately got my attention. Everything about it, the visuals, the gameplay, it just looked like a game that I would love to play. And it is already listed on Steam. So I'm assuming it's going to be the same day for Steam and the Switch. So that is fantastic. I already added it to my wish list. Let's see here. The Stalker trilogy. That just intrigues me more because, well, for one, the visuals look really rough on it, but I don't know how much of that is because it's on the Switch versus how much of it is that these are older games, and so they just didn't look that great to begin with. I'd have to look at a comparison. I bet someone's probably done a comparison. Could find one. Worst case scenario, it could be one of those other things I could do comparison for the channel down the line. I'm always interested in getting more physical games anyway. Let's see here, other things. Of course, there's the Capcom Fighting Collection 2, as you mentioned, which the fact that it includes Power Stone is definitely intriguing to me. I have the Power Stone collection on the Vita, which is the PSP version. I only played a tiny bit, but it's like Power Stone's always been something I've wanted to get into because I remember when it was on Dreamcast back in the day and just like how much I wanted to play that game because I thought it looked so cool. And I just never really did. And but getting a physical version, I might actually consider buying both of these collections. At least as long as they're not terribly expensive. Mostly because it's like I know they're really rare. I mean, well, getting the original versions of the game is extremely rare. Some of them were specific to arcades, but yeah, so I'll at least consider that. Let's see here. Suikoden kind of interests me. I'm still not entirely sure. Like I think it's a couple games I would probably enjoy, but another one where if it has a physical version, then I'm definitely much more likely to get it than if it's just digital. We'll get to Castlevania later, of course. Epic Mickey still looks cool, but I'm not in a rush to get it. And I figure with it being a Disney game, it'll probably be on shelves for a while. Be able to get it on discount. Yakuza, of course. Yeah, I think that's about it as far as the main things. But, as we've already mentioned, the Castlevania Dominus Collection. Oh, man. So, I was watching this, like while I was working on stuff for work. And this is the one thing that I nearly yelled. when they said, I was super hyped about it. And of course, I also was like, am I gonna have to double dip on this one and get it digitally and physically? Because it took so long for the Advanced Collection to get a physical version, and thankfully they already announced the physical version through limited run, and pre-orders go up for that on September 13th. So I will definitely wait and pre-order the physical version, and I know it's going to take a while to get here, but Pentiment wasn't that bad. Let's see here. That was probably the pre-order for that. I think may have been April, and it got here, in August. So that's not bad at all. Most of the games take over a year to get here. I mean, I just got the Persona thing, and that was like 10 months that I had to wait for that. So, but yeah, I definitely was just unbelievably excited when I saw that, and knowing that there's a physical version coming more quickly makes me super happy. And I didn't realize that the third game in that series, I think it's Dawn of Sorrow, I think is the name of it, has the same what's his face, Soma from Aria of Sorrow. So I thought that's cool that he's back for another game, especially because that tells me exactly what the gameplay is going to be like, more or less. Apart from obviously the additional stuff that they added with the DS and the explanation, the way that they made the touchscreen functionality work is if you're playing in like docked mode on the Switch, or on consoles, PC, then they change like the functions of like opening doors and stuff to QuickTime events instead of having to use a touchscreen. But with the Switch, if you play it in handheld mode, you can use the touchscreen, and then from what I've heard, it actually works really well. So, because like normally you have to like draw symbols to open doors and stuff, for certain things, and so yeah, they just kind of changed that around, and I like the layout too, because they do you can choose how you want the layout to be. Like it can be laid out exactly like the DS, or it can be laid out with just two, with basically the main screen, and then next to it is the lower touch screen. But the default, which I think this is the best way, is it has the main screen that has the game, and then it has two more screens, one of which is the screen with the map, and then also the screen that has your status. And there's just like all sorts of additional features that come with it. Like they have a full glossary that basically explains what all the different souls do, and all of that. That just makes super helpful. Like if you're trying to track down specific souls and all of that, and also be able to know which ones you need, and lots of good stuff. But anyway, go ahead and give me your thoughts, because you've actually played these games, right?
I definitely I completed Dawn of Sorrow. I played a little bit of Portrait of Ruin, but I never owned Order of Ecclesia, so that one I haven't touched at all. Definitely, we've talked about, because you played the Advanced Collection. We definitely talked about, like, oh man, we would like to see the DS collection come, and it finally came. And
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, also the price is also pretty good.
Yeah.
Like $25 for
Mhm.
all 3 games. That's great. I mean, especially considering the fact of how a couple of these games can be a little bit pricey.
Right.
But I mean, they're not extraordinarily expensive, but they aren't cheap either. So like,
Yeah.
getting all 3 of these games together is great. Even though they explained, like, with the symbols, there is one thing I'm very curious to know about how they're going to handle with the touch aspect. Is one in Dawn of Sorrow, there is a boss where you get his ability, and it's to break blocks.
Mhm.
You break the blocks in the DS version originally. You touched the screen with the stylus, and you just poke at these particular blocks, and they break.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering how they're going to handle that, because of the fact that you just tap the blocks and they go away. I
Yeah.
mean, you can almost make a pattern with the blocks, or because you're just tapping each individual one.
Mhm.
So I'm curious to know, like, how they're actually going to handle that in this version. That's just something that I'm very curious to know, because it's not something as simple as putting in a quick time event to replace drawing the symbols out. So
Well,
that
maybe it's
is-
maybe it's like you hold down one button and then from there you tap like a button that corresponds with each of those blocks or something like that. Or buttons that correspond with those blocks, something to that effect. I don't know.
Yeah, but that definitely will be interesting to see. But I am definitely, though, still just glad that it's coming. It's coming, because I mean, from what I played at Portrait of Ruin, it was pretty good. Dawn of Sorrow was extraordinary. I really loved that one a lot. And I feel like, well, I can't remember, because I don't think I got all the stuff from like the additional modes you can play, but I know, like, with the basic game, I know I 100% that one completely, and it didn't seem like it was too difficult to do. Like, I feel like it might have even been easier than Aria of Sorrow. But I think overall, though, it was just a solid game, and it easily would be in my top 5 Castlevania titles. But yeah, like, also getting to finish Portrait of Ruin, that would be great. Going back to the other one, like I said, I never played that one, so trying that one out will be interesting to see in the least. But yeah, definitely a good collection. I don't know if I would ever touch Haunted Castle, though, just because of the fact that it seems like it's kind of hard. I mean, don't get me wrong.
It does have difficulty levels. You can lower the difficulty if you want.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of should play it on the original difficulty setting. And I mean, I've played the older ones. Like, I beat Castlevania 1 and Castlevania 4, but still, I don't know. That one just still seems kind of brutal to me. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I'll touch that or not. But it's good that they have that, though, in the collection. But yeah, definitely. And also, some of the artwork, I definitely think is pretty cool having that artwork in there, because the artwork in Castlevania games are incredible. And even though, like, it changes depending if you're, like, talking about the original NES games and then also, like, shifting over to, like, the Game Boy Advance games, because that style changed into a more kind of anime-esque style and whatnot. But either way, like, both sort of generations, the artwork has been beautiful. So having that addition in there is great. It's a great bonus. Yeah, definitely. This is one definitely looking forward to.
Yeah. Highlight of the show without question. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that like what they're just like that. I don't care, whatever. But yeah, I mean, especially because we've been talking about the DS collection, wanting to see that, and yeah, I'm glad, especially knowing that there's a physical version that's at least available to pre-order, because then I'm not like waiting around thinking, is this ever going to come? It's just more like, okay, I just have to wait for them to produce the physical version and send it my way. So I'm fine with that. I can live with that.
Now, I guess one more request though I would have is, will they finally release Symphony of the Night officially on PC? That's like the one thing they haven't done that would make sense. Oh gosh, I can't remember. There's also like one other one that I mean, it probably, I don't know if this one's even really all that great, but I at least think the concept is good enough. Is there was one that was made for the 360 and PS3. It was a multiplayer Castlevania game where you play as Richter, Alucard, Soma, and there's one other one. I think it's the woman from Order of Ecclesia.
Okay.
But you pretty much go through Dracula's castle, and you like work together trying to get to the center to complete the game. That one, like I think there was like one fan project a long time ago to try to get it to work on PC, but that like went nowhere. But I feel like that game and Symphony of the Night would be great additions to port over. So I'm just like, especially Symphony of the Night, like that one,
right.
I feel like it's no brainer. It's like, why haven't they done that already?
Well, I mean, the theory is that it's PlayStation's keeping them from doing that.
I mean, isn't it technically also on Xbox 360? I mean, Xbox via 360 or something like that? Or am I...
Maybe. I don't know.
Else?
I'm not sure.
Sony, come on, guys.
Right.
Let go.
Yep. All right. It's getting pretty late, so probably kind of just speed through the next couple of topics here. So, PlayStation 5 is getting a price increase in Japan. Well, PlayStation 5 as well as accessories. So, accessories including the DualSense controllers, the various versions of that, as well as the PlayStation Portal. The DualSense controllers are going up about the equivalent of 13 or 15 US dollars. And the consoles are all going up the equivalent of $90 each. So it's like 13,000 yen, which is about 90 US dollars. Yeah. So your thoughts?
Before, I feel like people are going to say, oh, it's the fact that it's the yen, it's so weak in Japan, and that's why Sony is doing this so they can get their money back. I understand that, but at the same time, this is not the first time they've increased the price of the PS5 in Japan. Yeah. That just definitely does not look good. But also additionally, I think the bigger thing here is the fact that at this point in the console cycle, this is where we should see prices go down,
right,
not up. And sure, they're trying to, not sell at a loss, but I feel like, again, at this point in the console life cycle, especially considering the fact that Sony already stated that they are selling their consoles for profits. They're not like selling them at losses anymore. I feel like, that's definitely the time where you should be discounting these games. And because of the fact that, the yen is getting weaker, that kind of, you not changing the price would technically count as having a discount, but you're bumping up the price, so it's still the same. And I don't know why that is. And I mean, granted, they, at least as far as I can tell, granted, I haven't been shopping for PS5, so I could be wrong. I don't think they've cut the price over here in America or in the West in general. So I don't know why they haven't. I mean, granted, Microsoft hasn't done the same thing with Xbox. Like, the price is definitely still the same. And, they even also raised the price of the Xbox over in Japan as well earlier this year. But I don't know. It definitely doesn't bode well. And considering the fact that, there are rumors of the PS5 Pro coming, that definitely makes you wonder, what's the price going to be like for that? I definitely would not say it's going to be like $500,
no,
maybe
not a chance.
$550, at least. But it definitely is going to be something that is on the cheaper end. And I mean, I think someone even made a post saying that the equivalent of a PS5 in Japan is like 2 Nintendo Switches,
Yep.
or it's like 3 Switch Lights and a pair of Joy-Cons, which I was like, huh, that's a pretty interesting equation there.
Right.
But yeah, overall, I'm not a fan of this. I from the economic side, it makes quote unquote sense because the currency is weak. But at the same time, this is the time when console prices are supposed to be getting cheaper. I mean, yes, there are, I still don't completely agree with some of the prices of the hardware, but PC components, like GPUs, those get discounted. Like those are getting discounted. Even, for stuff like current series cards, like, 4,000, like RTX 4000 cards, or Radeon RX 7000 cards. Like those are, getting discounts. They might not be, ideal prices, but they are still getting discounted.
Yeah.
Especially depending on where you get your cards from. And these are current generation cards too.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, sort of expect an older console to be getting some sort of discount. And, the fact that we haven't right now is concerning to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I want to be clear. I don't think that it's a good thing when anybody does it. Nobody should be increasing prices this late in the life cycle. Because like you said, this is typically when they start to discount, is about 4-year-ish mark. And instead they're just charging more. So, I mean, it hasn't hit the US yet. And we'll see what happens whenever the PS5 Pro becomes a thing. Honestly, I think that the PS5 Pro is going to be $650 minimum. It could be as high as $700. And I could see Sony having the balls to do it just because of the fact that they know fanboys will pay that. And they will do it joyfully. They are not going to complain about it. Now, I'm not saying every person who's a Sony fan is going to be willing to do that, but fanboys definitely will. And it's mostly going to be enthusiasts and fanboys who are going to buy the PS5 Pro. And then, of course, obviously, you'll have some people who would buy it just because they haven't yet bought a PS5 and they figure, might as well go for the Pro. But yeah, I think it's going to be really expensive, and I think that the base price of the PS5 is not going to change. Because, of course, they've already been phasing out the at least the disc version, the original disc version, if not also the original digital version. I mean, of course, they have the Slim right now for both, which is more expensive than the base version was. But I think that they're going to keep those prices the same and then just charge more for the Pro. At least that's what I'm expecting. So we'll see on that front. Yeah, I don't ever like when they do that, especially at this point. Increasing the prices, not the right move. It should be the other way around. Plain and simple. And this isn't vilifying Sony because they're doing it. It's just saying in general this shouldn't be happening. But it is what it is. So that's all I got on that. All right. Any other thoughts on that topic?
No, sir.
All right. You want to cover this Crash Bandicoot topic?
Yeah. So, let's see how long this is. So there was a report recently from this gaming historian called Liam Robertson, and this is coming from VG, Video Games Chronicle, stating that Crash Bandicoot 5 was in development by Toys for Bob, the developer team, but it was canceled due to Activision pulling back on funding single-player titles in favor of live service multiplayer titles. And this was, the game was canceled following what Activision considered as muted sales for Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Additionally, other single-player titles also have been canceled as well, or at least shot down, like sequel to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and I believe also Spyro also had another game that was mentioned, but also was canceled as well. Actually, no, wait. It was saying that. Okay, no. So it's actually more like a team up. There was a concept event that saw Crash team up with Spyro, following an interdimensional threat to both worlds, and both Crash and Spyro were intended to be playable characters. So that was what was happening there. That's pretty much it. Overall, I guess I'll just quickly say is this is such an Activision thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we've been seeing this quite a bit in the AAA sphere, where single-player titles or studios are shut down, or they change, or they're forced to change what they're doing in lieu of the multiplayer live service experience, and it definitely is not. It's not great, seeing the fact that they want to get this sort of consistent revenue through microtransactions and battle passes and stuff, rather than crafting a good and well-loved product. I mean, the Crash trilogy was made with passion, including the fact that the devs even left in original exploits from the original PS1 games, just to show how faithful it could be. So I mean, I thought that was pretty cool to do. So the fact that we couldn't get that sort of love in Crash 5, but we're getting battle pass looter shooter, instead, live service. Maybe the service gets shut down in a couple years, but you spent $40 on skins though. Congrats.
Right.
Yeah, definitely not great, but yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say about this, mostly because I never really played the Crash games. Not that I was never interested in them. I think that I was more interested when they did the remakes, but I didn't go for it mostly because I just wasn't sure if that style of extra challenging platformer was going to be something I would enjoy. And I'm still kind of mixed on it. If someone gave me the Crash trilogy, I would probably try it out. But I'm much more of Spyro appeals to me a little more because of the collectathon aspect. I know Crash has the collectathon thing, but it also has just what is often considered pretty brutal platforming stuff. So as far as this being canceled, yeah, like you said, it's an Activision thing. It's not surprising from that standpoint. But at least Toys for Bob, as far as my understanding goes, is independent now, so they can do their own thing. They just can't use Crash anymore unless Microsoft lets them do that, which I guess is possible since Microsoft owns Activision now. But I don't know. At least we know that the Toys for Bob makes quality games, and whatever they do next is probably going to be great. So there's that at least. But that's all I have to say. You got anything else?
No, sir.
All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and close it out for tonight. So give me your recommendations and dissuasions.
All right. So my recommendation is just a couple tips for rechain of memories, and the first one is going to be to focus on your deck primarily. So build up your deck with high value cards. So make sure you get something, and do this as early on as possible. So get cards that you can get as high. If you can get 9s or 8 value cards, like 7, 6, definitely go for that. Try to cap your minimum, at least for the first 5 floors, at 5. Don't get anything lower than 5. But then eventually you should just try to up the value of your cards to like 7 through 9, eventually as you get later through the game. Also, save a bunch of 0 value kingdom keys and have those sprinkled out in your deck, so that way whenever a boss has a powerful slight that they're using, you can just cancel that completely just by using a single 0 card, and you're good to go there. Also, one more thing I would say is to focus as far as whenever you level up, unless you're trying to get the achievements, in which case I would definitely say go for the get a slight here and there when it's available. Focus on putting your levels into card points, so that way you can just expand your deck, so that way you're not limited because you can't put that many cards in because your card points are just like low. And I mean, because the fact that if you cancel your enemy's attacks, you don't really get hit all that much anyway, so you don't have to worry about HP there. I mean, eventually you should boost your HP up so you don't get killed eventually, but card points I would say are more important. So yeah, those are my recommendations.
All right, good ones. Well, my recommendations, I'm going to start off because I forgot to mention this last week. So we finished watching Monk, the series, which, of course, we watched through before. We've had it for a long time. But we watched the movie that's exclusive to Peacock. There is technically a physical version. You just have to kind of like look online through eBay and stuff in order to find the physical version, because some countries they actually have physical versions, but just not the US. So I was able to find a physical version, hasn't gotten here yet, but I want to recommend watching that movie. Even if it's just doing a free trial of Peacock or whatever, something that allows you to watch it. If you enjoyed the rest of the series, definitely check out the movie because it is good. And it's not absolutely necessary because the series ended well, but it's also it's kind of cool to see where the characters are now versus where they were when the series ended. And furthermore, you also have the fact that you can see like how Monk dealt with COVID and stuff, which that's pretty funny. But yeah, it is a good movie. It was well done. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that I gave it a chance. I mean, Josh Taylor recommended it, so when he said that it was good, it's like, okay, I trust his judgment, and that's the only reason I watched it. Otherwise, I probably would have avoided it because I just wouldn't trust it to not be terrible. But he said it was good, so it's like, okay, I trust that, and it was worth it. So yeah, recommending that. Sure, I know that I had something else. I want to recommend that if you decide you want to do New Game Plus and Dark Souls, if there's anything you want to do before you fight Gwyn, make sure you do it, because you don't have the option of going back after that. Once you beat him, you go and get your ending, and then right after the credits, you're immediately taken back to Undead Asylum with all your gear and your levels intact, and you do not have the opportunity to do anything further unless you get back to that point in your New Game Plus. So that's my other recommendation. Dissuasions.
My dissuasions are also going to be rechain of memory based, and so my first dissuasion is going to be: do not add premium cards or use premium cards at all, because they are pretty much useless. They expire as soon as you use them, and you cannot reload them until the next battle. However, the only thing I will say is actually to use premium cards if they are item cards, since item cards like potions, ethers, and elixirs automatically do not get replenished when you reload a deck. You can use premium cards for those, since that will make their card points cost cheaper. So I would say that's the only time I would say to actually use a premium cards and have them included in your deck. Otherwise, do not include them because they will go away after one use and you can't use them until the next battle. The other dissuasion I will have is do not use slights at all in battles. You're pretty much just wasting one card that you cannot use for the rest of the fight, and if you use too many slights, you use up a lot of cards and you get pretty much left with either a handful of cards, which means you're just going to constantly reload, or cards that will be pretty much ineffective and will leave you very vulnerable. So do not use slights at all. They're not really necessary. Just stack up with basic attack, use some magic, get some summons, and use some potions, ethers, and elixirs to help replenish all that other stuff, and you will be good to go.
All right. Well, my dissuasion is if you use the Steam recording feature, make sure that if you do not delete any recorded footage if it's something that you want to keep until after you first exported it, because if you accidentally delete the wrong video file, it's gone and there's nothing you can do about it. So don't make that same mistake that I made, because I lost that footage that I really wanted to keep only because I deleted the wrong footage, and there's nothing I could do about it. It's gone. So part of why I'm doing New Game Plus right now is so that I can get that footage again. But yeah, so I think that's my only one for tonight. All right, anything else?
No, sir.
Where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. No new videos, of course, but now that I can do it again, my next video I plan on making is pretty much the one I had talking about Batman and how he is viewed as a fascist. But it's even going to be more interesting considering the fact that there is an, I think, IGN article that is talking about the new, the upcoming VR game, and their headline definitely is going to contribute to that video. So definitely check it out. I don't know what's gonna come out, but it definitely should be coming out possibly over this weekend.
Make sure to use ad block when you go to IGN's site.
I'm gonna try to find an archive link for that.
That's even better. Even better. Cool. All right, well, you can find me on my YouTube gaming channel at TheFrozenGamer87. I am not going to be putting anything out this week, and probably not next week either. I need a break for a bit, and currently I'm just reevaluating how I'm going to handle stuff with the channel going forward, because I do want to produce content, but I also don't want to burn myself out. Since I do have, a wife and kids that I have to be here for, and it's kind of hard to be motivated to spend time with my family when I have so much stuff I have to put together. So, just figuring things out with that. But there's still, lots of comparisons. Thankfully, it seems like most of them are pretty evergreen in terms of things that people are wanting to watch. So either way, those comparisons are still there. Lots of them. Next one I'm going to be doing will probably be Persona 4 Golden, between the Vita, Steam Deck, and Switch OLED. But it's more just a question of when. Because when I have the time to record, then it'll be easier to get it edited, even though it will take a lot of time. But it's just a matter of having the time to record and the motivation and everything else. So we'll see when that happens. But I also have my YouTube cooking channel, Not Authentic But Delicious. That's youtube.com/@NABDcooking. And there, of course, the last recipe I put out was my Huevos Rancheros pizza. And I'm not sure which one's going up next. It's possible I'll have something up next week. I haven't fully decided yet. If I do, it could be one of 3 different recipes. The potentially one of 4, depending on whether or not I get the rest of the Japanese curry breakfast burrito recorded this week. So if I get that recorded over the weekend, then that may be the next thing that goes up, but I haven't decided. At least I have stuff recorded for that. So it's just, and none of them take super long to edit. It's just a matter of feeling like I need to give myself a break for a little while and reevaluate stuff before I move forward. So we'll see how all that goes. But of course, with that, you can also find the Not Authentic But Delicious. You can find on Facebook and on Twitter. Same handle at NABD Cooking for Twitter, and then for Facebook, you just look up Not Authentic But Delicious, and you should be able to find it. And then, of course, we have multiple things for the podcast, for the Orange Box podcast. If you are listening to the audio-only version, which is available on all major podcast platforms, comes out every Friday at 12 a.m. Central Time. If you're listening to the audio-only version and you want to watch the video version usually has clips from various games that we've been playing, as well as trailers from games that have been shown in various discussions that we've talked about from Nintendo Directs and that sort of thing. Nintendo Directs, PlayStation Showcases, Game Awards, so on and so forth. So there's clips from those things, as well as if you want to see what we look like, if you actually care, which you probably don't, you certainly can watch the podcast video version, which comes out every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Time. And you can find us on Twitter there. It is at the Orange Box Pod. You can email us, theorangeboxpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, you can just comment on our videos, regardless of what you have to say. If you leave a review, we will be sure to read it on the show. I have only checked Apple Podcasts so far, and Apple Podcasts does not have any reviews yet. So I don't know where we're getting our listens, if at all. And it doesn't really matter too much. Whether you write to us or not, we're going to talk every week for probably 2 hours or more. Right now, we're coming up on 2.5 hours, and that's just a normal thing. It's our way to catch up each week, have that outlet, and it's a good time. So regardless of anything else, we're going to keep doing this. Coming up on almost a year now. 5 more weeks. So, last chance. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zeracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast. And until next time, find a physical game that you have wanted and get it. I don't know. Orange Box Podcast out.